Hey, I'm Cullen. I'm the tech here at the boardroom, and today we're going to be showing you how to wax your own snowboard. Well, what I'm going to be doing right now is I'm getting ready with base cleaner. Now, base cleaner basically, it just pulls all the dirt out of your base. Now, base is porous, so that means when you're putting wax in, it's actually getting sucked into the pores, kind of like your skin. So what we're doing is we're sort of like exfoliating your skin, getting it loosened up, getting all the dirt and grime out. You can apply it with a paper towel. It goes on really nice, and if you give it a minute or two, it tends to evaporate on its own. But you want to spread it nice and even, not super soak the base. It's not going scuba diving. You just want to give it a nice, clean finish to it. Let it sit for a second. It'll evaporate on its own, and then once it's, you can feel it's a little bit drier again, then we'll get into waxing. So now that our base is nice and clean, we are going to get along to actually waxing our board. Now, my iron is already preheated. It's very important that you do this in a well-ventilated area. I've got the window open here, so a little bit more airflow just because it tends to get a little bit stale if you're inside. Now, when you're using your wax, depending on what wax it is, it's very important to read on the back of it because it'll actually say what to set your iron to. Now, for us, we're just using our regular all-temperature wax. But depending on the wax, if you have it a soft wax for warm temperature, but you have your iron too hot, it might not go on just right. So very important, read the label, it'll help you out, make things easier. What you're gonna wanna do when you're waxing, you wanna keep it as even as you can and drip the whole length of the board, just to cover as much as you can. We'll spread it in later, but mainly have a nice even pattern for it. Kind of rub little circles as you're going. You don't have to start right at the tip. Kind of start in the middle and we can move the wax around as we go. So I generally do a zigzag the whole way down. Kind of get as consistent as I can. And then once I get to the end, do a little bit around the rails. For spreading it around, we're going to be doing little circles. You can kind of start wherever you want as long as you get the whole board. This is more to warm up the pores, and when they're warm, they open up, so they take in more wax. You just kind of want to massage the board around and move the wax where it needs to go. If you feel while you're ironing that your iron is actually, it feels like it's scraping along the base, it's always good to give it a little bit more wax just so it glides a little bit more evenly. Once you've got all the wax moved to the whole length of the board, you're gonna go from one side of the board all the way to the other in one smooth motion and kind of work your way down the whole thing until the whole board is done. And you wanna go tip to tail or like tail to nose, doesn't matter which way, as long as it's from one side to the other. If you stop in the middle, try to smooth it out just because it makes it a little bit easier when you're scraping the board. So I'm gonna start at the back and work your way forward. Now you can put a little bit of pressure on the side so it's almost at an angle. This kind of pulls the wax forward and gives it a nice, smooth, even consistency. All right, so now that our board is waxed, it's nice and even, it's gonna be warm for a bit. Now, it's gonna feel almost tacky. What you're gonna wanna do is just let it sit just somewhere room temperature for about 10-15 minutes. Let it cool down until it's cool to the touch. It feels room temperature. All right, so now that we've waited about 10-15 minutes, our base is a little bit cooler, so it's gonna be a little bit easier for us to scrape the wax. You're always gonna wanna go from tip to tail and do it in one motion. If you stop halfway through, you're gonna get a little bit of a ridge. So even if you do, it's all right, as long as you start from one end and go all the way through the middle and fix whatever you've gone over. So as long as it's one smooth pass, you wanna go from one side all the way to the other, clean off your scraper, go back again. So go over the whole thing. If you have to go over it again, that's fine. 3 times, totally fine. All right, so now that we're done scraping the board, this is where your brush is gonna come in handy. The same way that you're doing the scraping, you're gonna wanna go from nose to tail or tail to nose, and you're just gonna wanna give nice even pressure through the whole thing. Now it's gonna do 2 things. One of them is gonna be, it's gonna polish up the wax that you have on it and give it a nice finish. The other thing is, if you've got too much wax on your base, this is gonna find it. And you put a fair bit of pressure on the board. The one last thing you want to do, you can either take your nail or the edge of your scraper and just kind of go along the rails of your board just to kind of take the extra wax off. A nail is normally fine. Just put a little bit of pressure and you'll see it comes off kind of like spaghetti. All right, so now that your board is all brushed up, it's nice and polished, the one last thing that I like to do is give it an extra little bit of shine. This guy here is just a very, very fine pad, kind of like the same kind of stuff that you use for dishes. And you just kind of give it a rub down the same way you did with the brush, and it just gives it that extra little bit fast finish on it. So again, tip to tail, same as always, nice and even. You can put a lot of pressure on this, and this is where the board is really gonna start looking good. Cool, you have successfully just waxed your own snowboard. Now, even though you're absolutely a pro at it now, if you do want to bring it into the shop, we do all kinds of maintenance on boards. If you want to get it base grind, waxes, edged, we do all that kind of stuff. Even if it needs a little bit more love, there are parts showing that probably shouldn't be showing, we can help you out with that. So feel free to give us a call. We're here Monday to Friday and weekends as well. So come on in, love to see you.